So back to the golf thing. You said when you worked at Carson Creek that's kind of where like the Red Dirt Golf Collective kind of birth of it. Is that where you just kind of full deep dive nerd out into the architecture side of golf and the stories of golf and how like Oklahoma is like pretty special? No one talks about it.
So I didn't realize kind of, the gyms that we're sitting on as Oklahomans, and we have some gyms here in the state that are crazy good golf. I mean, if people aren't traveling around to Oklahoma like they are right now, Nebraska or Wisconsin or Oregon, but we have, in terms of the richness of golf course architecture, I mean, I would put us up against anybody in terms of, the quality of golf course architecture per capita in the state of Oklahoma. Working out at Carson, that's where Spencer and I got to know each other really well. I was the best man in his wedding. He was in my wedding as well. And it really wasn't until COVID, we were playing out at Cimarron National one day. And this was right after, I think the guys from the Golfers Journal had come through a couple of weeks before. Casey Bannon and some of those guys. And not to shamelessly plug them, but I'm going to shamelessly plug them anyway.
They're worth plugging. They're amazing.
My gosh. As far as media content goes, they're the best in the business. Golf media content, low advertising, really quality.
It's everything
writing.
I want. This is a
exactly. Right?
Like,
well, and the same thing with
podcast fan. It's amazing.
The same thing with Red Dirt Golf. I mean, it was kind of our inspiration for creating Red Dirt Golf. We wanted to create an avenue for telling, kind of deep diving into some of those stories of the architects, the Perry Maxwells, the A.W. Tillinghast that people didn't even know we had in the state of. Very few people knew we had. A couple of Tillinghast in the state of Oklahoma. I mean, there's some really cool stories out there that we wanted to tell, and that this just kind of became a creative outlet for us to write and hopefully tell some of those stories that haven't been told in a long time, and kind of refreshing people's minds and hopefully creating some pride in the golf that we do have here in Oklahoma.
Well, and it's also fun for you guys to have a project that like, you're not like solely thinking, I need ads, I need to pay bills from this, right? You're not, it's just a fun passion project to do. And you also don't have anyone telling you what you can and can't write about.
For sure.
And you can write as much as you want, or you can write little, or you can travel. Like it's the beauty of it. And I know you guys done a great job of it. And you guys getting a press pass to the PGA was like the pinnacle of it.
That was cool.
Which we'll get to later.
Yeah.
But what was kind of like, did you just kind of start like writing stories? Like what was that first story? And I mean, how do you think that, I know it's great to have an idea, but how is it like, let's just like, this is going to be a legit thing now?
I think when you start anything, you have images of grandeur in your mind on what it could be and the potential that it has. But we intentionally started slower than we wanted to. We started with a Twitter account and an Instagram account. We didn't have a website. We didn't have anything. Because, Spencer and I both have full-time jobs. We both now have full-time families. We've got a lot of stuff going on. And, I'm announcing on the side and all of this stuff. And so, we wanted to make sure we're not biting off more than we can chew. So, this really started two summers ago as a Twitter account. And pretty quickly, we realized that it had legs and that this was kind of an opportunity that hasn't really been fleshed out by anybody else in our state, and so we created a website, and that allowed us to have a platform for telling those stories. I mean, you can tell a story in 140 characters or 280 characters, but you're not going to get all the details that you want in there. And so this gave us this website gave us the platform to write those stories, and they are long form stories. I mean, I think one of the story we did on Hillcrest is like 4,000 words. So if you're not a reader, it's probably not for you. But you follow us anyway on Twitter, for sure, because we'll give you the highlights of our stories. But it just gave us an opportunity to get out there and that's another thing that people don't realize is how accommodating people are in this game in Oklahoma. I mean, I'm not a member anywhere. I'm not a member at Southern Hills or Hillcrest or, anywhere else that we've done a story on. Anywhere else that we've done a story on. And everybody has welcomed us in with open arms, because they know that we have a special story to tell, whether it's Perry Maxwell or it's Frank Phillips here in Bartlesville. And he barely played golf, but he had such an influence on the game of golf in this Bartlesville area in northeast Oklahoma. Waco Turner in southern Oklahoma, his story is freaking wild. And we haven't even, that's a story that I wanted to tell. I think I've got 2,000 or 3,000 words on Waco Turner right now, and I'm not even to the interesting stuff yet. Yeah. So, there's so many stories out there like that. Susie Maxwell Burning at Lincoln Park.
Golf Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Golf Hall of Famer was inducted the same year as Tiger Woods.
Hall of Fame.
Yeah, like the big one.
Not like the Oklahoma Golf Hall of Fame.
No, the big one. And she started the game of golf because she worked with horses outside of Lincoln Park, and one of her horses got lost on the golf course and tore up some greens. It's crazy, some of these stories that are out there that are not known or little known, and so this was just kind of a platform to tell those stories, and it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like you said, you can ball out and literally write as much as there is to write about these stories because you don't have to worry about it.
We are the writer, we are the editor, and we do it how we want it. And that's one thing. And who knows where this goes in 5 years or 10 years? Maybe we have a team of people that are doing this, and I have to edit the stories or whatever. But I was very staunch about writing the things that we want to write about and doing it the way we want to do it. We're not going to have perfect grammar. I studied AP style in college, but it's not going to be perfectly, in line with the New York Times or USA Today or wherever you get your news. But hopefully they're interesting, and hopefully we bring a different angle to the stories that we write. So that's kind of our philosophy with it. And if you like it, we love that. If you don't, move on.
Yeah, there's so many stories to tell. There's so much to talk about. And there's some epic golf courses here that have kind of, for this place, right?
Yeah.
Hillcrest, it's kind of out of the way.
Yeah.
But it's worth coming up here to play golf here because it's fantastic.
Yeah, taking Hillcrest, for example, it's a 1925, I believe, Perry Maxwell golf course. So that was when Perry Maxwell was still kind of in his banker / golf course. He went full-time golf course architect after his banking career, but this is early on in his career. There have been a few. This is 2022. We've celebrated a few centennial. Perry Maxwell's this year with Duncan Golf and Tennis Club was last year, I believe, and there were a few others, but this is a classic Perry Maxwell. You were out there, you've seen those greens. You get that classic potato chip style green, and it's gorgeous. There's elevation out here, and that's one thing that Maxwell was very staunch about, was he would not work on a golf course if it wasn't land properly used for building a golf course. So he was as good a scout of land as he was anything, and this is one of those cases.
So again, starts a couple of years ago. You're slow to get off the kind of blocks on purpose, just so you can kind of, because the last thing you want to do is say, hey, we're this new thing, and then you haven't written anything for 4 months.
Exactly.
I've made that mistake many times. This is Oklahoma Golf for anybody interested. But it's great because then, like you said, you have the time to tell the full story.
Yeah.
Like you said, the story, which I'll link the website in the description. You guys can go read some of the stories out there.